we got all sorts of different conservation practices that NRCS can reimburse. And 823 is kind of an umbrella term. I believe in that interim standard that the customer has to follow a reduced till plan or no till. They have to follow a pest management plan before they control any pests, and they have to follow the nutrient management. So we got to look at, as far as nutrient management goes, testing your soils, see what deficiencies we have out there as far as NP and K. We have to look at putting those right recommended rates down for the nutrient management. There's also a field border requirement as well. So we have to be implementing some field borders as well as cover crops. Cover crops and conservation crop rotation. So conservation crop rotation, that would entail not planting carrots where I got my carrots every single year, not planting sweet corn where I got my sweet corn every single year, getting into a good rotation. And I think those are the primary practices within that umbrella. So instead of building a contract with nutrient management, pest management, crop rotation, cover crops, field borders, we can handle all of that under one interim conservation practice, which would be that conservation practice 823. And kind of all that goes into what Glenn and Angela, their ultimate goal is on their operation, is farming in a regenerative manner, and transitioning their operation here from what was a conventional corn and soybean operation, high inputs, that type of thing, a lot of tillage, into no-till, heavy emphasis on soil health, and not a lot of inputs. Okay, so Glenn, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Yeah, like Ryan was saying, our ultimate goal was to transition this land into something that was very, very depleted into something that's life-giving. Life-giving in a healthy way, with least amount of inputs that are, chemical-based, using nature as nature was, intended to rebuild things, and those practices are really good for making those happen. And it's good. It's also, in this spot, provides good local research for what can be done with a depleted soil.
So if anyone wants to get involved with this, how can they get involved with this?
Well, I'll say for us, it was as simple as giving our local NRCS office a call, asking them a few questions, and that lit the spark. And we had some motivated people in the NRCS office and knowledgeable, and they're there to help you, and they were willing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan, because he was instrumental in this.
Yeah, so it is kind of a process. Glenn and Angela, they started this back in the fall of 2024. We had to go through some planning, and there was a lot of eligibility that we needed to take into consideration. There was a lot of trips into the FSA office, but we're more than happy to help them go through that process and kind of get them started with a nice plan. And we can't, excuse me, due to policy concerns, or sometimes you have changes in rules and policy that we can't always look at reimbursing everything, but we're definitely able to help where we can. So glad to be able to help out there. So hopefully we can achieve your guys' goals and objectives on the landscape.
Is there anything you want to say about this program that I didn't ask about? Is there anything that you want the general public to understand if they were to watch this video?
It can be a little bit of a process. You always got to have a resource concern to justify those practices being applied on that land and utilizing taxpayer dollars. But we're definitely more than willing to come out there and document what our benchmark is and what we're trying to achieve, and utilizing Glenn and Angela's objectives to get there. So it's a roadmap, and the planning process can be long, and it's cyclical. A lot of times, you're gonna when you're out there with the current contract, you're going to find something that maybe you didn't see, and so we got to maybe start over start from the beginning again. You know, it's not really an ending. It takes some time to get there, so it can be a journey.
And I would like to say too, if anybody is interested, this project is in an urban environment, but the program, the 823 program, is not limited to an urban environment. It's a widespread program.
Yeah.
And somebody might be thinking about, you know, trying something like this. Their best bet, their first stop should be to the NRCS office to see what's available, and also they're a wealth of knowledge. And if your local NRCS office does not have the knowledge, you can ask them to call the Clay County office or another office who does have the expertise, because it's there and the help is there.
Cool. Well, yeah. Who is that? Who was that guy that presented last year in the library? He's here. From Hartford. What was his name?
Oh, man.
That younger gentleman.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, he does that 823 on 200 acres. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a pretty large.
Oh, Blake.
Blake.
Yeah, that's
Blake.
Blake.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blake. Yeah, he
So-
does the 200 and some acres. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not limited to, I don't know what you got here, 5.
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
Yeah.
It can go as high up as necessary, or is there a cap?
Yeah, you probably hit a cap.
Okay.
But you won't hit that cap until you. I mean, if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to have the answers. And some practices might apply for a smaller number of acreages, and the next practice might be more available.
Healing, that's a good word. It's healing, it's trying to heal itself. And so we let the soil tests and the soil analysis guide what we do on the land. So we just say, okay, are you ready for this, or are you not ready for this? And then we just kind of we knew the land needed rest. And so last year we gave it its rest, and then this year it's saying, I need a little bit more rest. And we're like, that's okay. We're gonna give you've been through a hard 30 years. I think you need a break. So we have a lot of conservation practices going on out here, so I want to just talk about those. So we have a practice map that was provided to us by Ryan and Caleb at the Clay County Conservation District here. So I want to just talk about the map. So behind us here, we have our high tunnel that's going up, and then behind that, we planted a herbicide-resistant mix. Because this is still conventionally farmed back here. You can see the corn, and we were able, actually voluntarily, the farmer stayed back even an additional 50 feet. So we planted some alfalfa over there. So there's alfalfa, and then there's this pesticide resistant, or a custom mix that NRCS helped us design, and then we drilled that in. Now, we have weed problems going on, and we're in the city of Vermillion. In the city of Vermillion, you know how unsightly weeds and all, and can't keep the grass over 6 inches tall. So we've been battling that a little bit, because we really would like to have it grow higher, but we mowed it down to make the city happy for today. But ideally, we'd like to continue to see that growing and developing. And then over here, on this side, we planted a permanent. It's going to be basically permanent seeding, and in between that seeding, next year the plan is to have some of these rows here. So we leave 10 feet between the rows, and Glenn's going to talk about the Buckeye bedding machine that we use. So for preparation, we will have a very limited one-time event to prepare the beds, and then after that, we take that off, and then there'll be cover crops planted everywhere where there's vegetables. So our goal is to have a cover crop rotation every fall in the areas where there were vegetables. And then up along the road over here, Glenn will show us, we planted a salt tolerant mix. That up there had some salt issues, and so we planted a salt tolerant mix up by the road. And there's just a lot of stuff coming off the street in the wintertime. They put road salt down, and just there's a lot of stuff coming off that street. So we stayed back about 50 feet off the road, and then we have permanent critical seeding planted over there as well. And then back here, what I'm most excited about is we planted pollinator habitat. So we had a Monarch mix that we, and by the way, all of our seed came from Millborn seed. We are transitioning to organic. When I say T2, that means year 2 transition to being certified organic. So Millborn gave us all untreated seed, and that's allowed in organic if you can't get it organically. So some of these seeding mixes were a bit complex, but Millborn was able to get it all, to make them all for us, especially the pollinator habitat, which we're going to see back there, which is coming along pretty nicely. I think I covered all of the areas where we got stuff planted for conservation practices, and then Glenn planted taproot radishes last year, and then you just we didn't do anything with that afterwards, but radishes and turnips. Okay. Oh yeah, oats and sun hemp, and then we put, and you did an oats undercrop with the alfalfa, and then they just baled that a couple days ago, and that turned out all right. And we have not, we have not had much rain on this field. The rain right now it's really, really dry. We need rain. We don't have a rain gauge out here, but do you have any idea like how much rain you might have had? I mean, it's minimal. So we have some rain in the forecast, which is good. And then 3 weeks ago, you drilled red clover, right? On this whole area, this whole main area where we're going to be doing the vegetables, you did red clover, right? Medium red clover.
Is to go out after a rainstorm or go during a rainstorm and look at the field. Is the water sitting on top or is it going into the soil? Some of the times you can see, like in a wheel track or something, water will sit there. Why is that? Compaction, right? It's sitting on there for a reason. So just going out there, look, or after a rainstorm, go out there with a spade, dig up. Did you collect the water or did it run off? Because I mean, we get it many times where water came down really fast. We got an inch within, a short amount of time, and all of a sudden, in a week or two, all of a sudden we're back in droughty conditions because none went into the soil. So go out and look yourself and just kind of see it. Another time too, we brought this out in the field, took all the trays off, just ran it along the ground, and then dug it up with a spade, and it did the same exact thing. So it's just a good example to bring these trays in different types of rotations, but it also just works in real life as well. So,
and this also applies to gardens as well. I mean, if you think that your garden is not eroding, you can just go out and put a blanket on the north end of your garden. If you till your garden and then wait for a south wind, and you'll see how much erosion you're getting off of your garden. And the other thing too is that you can do is, and I think Ryan's going to do this, is you can go out and use an infiltration ring in your own field or bed or garden or whatever it is, and check what your own infiltration is. The nice thing about using an infiltration ring is you pour your couple inches of water in there, you dig out the ring, and basically it's going to look like what we're going to show you with these trays on whether or not your water actually got any depth in your soil. Because that's what you want. You don't want it all held at the surface. You want it to infiltrate. You want to be able to store some water and be able to sustain itself, into a growing season here. So, how much we got in there? How much we put? About an inch and a half, a little over an inch and a half. So
I think the continuous grazing surprises most people because there's a living root into it, but you gather those heavily compacted, shallow root system, different species like Shane mentioned.
Yep, so this is our conventional system, and this would be, again, similar to whether it's a large-scale operation or a garden. You guys know that your rototillers will create the same kind of disturbance that the chisels and the plows and the large scale does. You're creating a till pan in your garden space. And so you're not able to necessarily infiltrate water as well as you probably need to for your vegetables, which leads you to needing to have some type of artificial irrigation system. The other thing with your gardens to try to keep all of this from happening, we've got our crop residue here, but in our gardens, we're not going to have a lot of crop residue, so we have to use mulches to supplement for the lack of residue that we generate from our vegetable crops. So it's important to keep your garden covered. for a variety of reasons. But certainly one of them has to do with the erosion side of it too. So we're going to flip these trays over, and you can kind of stand here and take a look, and you can decide, you know, which soil or which field would you want your plants growing in.